India, a land of ancient stories. We love stories, especially spooky ones. Hindi horror stories are very popular. They are more than just scary tales. These stories teach us valuable lessons. We learn about the consequences of our actions. We learn about right and wrong. So gather around and listen closely. Let the chills begin. In a small village nestled amidst fields, where the golden crops swayed gently in the breeze, and the air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers, stood an ancient banyan tree. Its roots dug deep into the earth, and its branches stretched out like welcoming arms, providing shade and shelter to all who sought it. The villagers considered it sacred. They would gather around the tree, offering prayers and lighting incense, believing that the tree was a bridge between the mortal world and the realm of the spirits. They believed it housed the spirits of their ancestors. Stories were passed down through generations about how the spirits protected the village, ensuring bountiful harvests and warding off evil. One day, a greedy developer decided to cut down the tree. He saw the land as a prime location for his new factory, envisioning profits and progress without a thought for the village's traditions. He wanted to build a factory on that land. The hum of machinery and the clatter of construction would soon replace the serene whispers of the banyan leaves. The villagers pleaded with him. They gathered in front of the tree, their faces etched with worry and desperation, begging him to reconsider. They warned him of dire consequences. Elders spoke of ancient curses and the wrath of the spirits, but the developer dismissed their warnings as mere superstitions. He scoffed at their beliefs and started chopping down the tree. The sound of the axe biting into the wood echoed through the village, a harbinger of the calamity to come. As the tree fell, a strange wind swept through the village. It howled and twisted, carrying with it the anguished cries of the spirits. That night, eerie whispers filled the air. The once peaceful village was now shrouded in an unsettling silence, broken only by the ghostly murmurs that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The developer fell terribly ill. He realized his mistake. His dreams of wealth turned into nightmares of regret as he lay in bed, tormented by visions of the spirits he had angered. He apologized to the villagers and planted a new banyan tree. With each shovel of earth, he hoped to mend the bond he had broken, seeking forgiveness from the spirits and the community he had wronged. An old Haveli stood at the edge of a deserted town. Its once grand architecture now lay in ruins, with broken windows and overgrown vegetation creeping up its walls. The locals avoided it, believing it to be cursed. People whispered about a hidden treasure within its decaying walls. Stories of unimaginable wealth, enough to change one's fate, circulated among the villagers. But these tales were always accompanied by warnings. They said a fearsome ghost guarded it, a spectral figure that roamed the halls at night, ensuring that no one disturbed the treasure. Many claimed to have seen its eerie silhouette in the moonlight. Two greedy friends, Rohan and Vikram, decided to find the treasure. They entered the Haveli, driven by dreams of wealth and prosperity. The creaking doors and the cold draft did little to deter them. The air inside was heavy and cold. A thick mist seemed to hang in the air, making it difficult to see more than a few feet ahead. Every step they took echoed through the empty halls. As they searched, they heard strange noises, whispers that seemed to come from the walls themselves, and the occasional creak of floorboards, as if someone or something was following them. They ignored the fear and continued their search. Determined to find the treasure, they pushed forward, their greed blinding them to the dangers that lurked in the shadows. Suddenly, Vikram was trapped in a room. The door slammed shut behind him, and no matter how hard he pounded on it, it wouldn't budge. Panic set in as he realized he was alone. Rohan, blinded by greed, abandoned his friend and ran away. The thought of the treasure consumed him, and he left Vikram behind without a second thought. He found the treasure chest, but couldn't open it. The ancient lock was rusted and unyielding, mocking his efforts. Desperation began to set in. A ghostly figure appeared, scaring him witless. The guardian of the Haveli had come to protect its treasure, and Rohan felt a chill run down his spine as he faced the spectral being. He realized his greed had cost him his friend. The weight of his actions bore down on him, and he understood that some treasures were not worth the price. The Haveli had claimed another victim. A young woman named Ria was lost in a dense forest. She had been hiking with friends, but somehow she had strayed off the path. The trees were tall and menacing, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching out to grab her. The forest seemed to close in around her, making it hard to breathe. Every sound was amplified, from the rustling leaves to the distant hoot of an owl. Panic began to set in as she realized she had no idea which way to go. Night was falling and she was terrified. The darkness brought with it an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional snap of a twig underfoot. She could feel the cold seeping into her bones, and her heart raced with fear. She had no flashlight, no map, and her phone had no signal. The forest at night was a different world, one filled with unseen dangers and lurking shadows. As she stumbled through the trees, she saw flickering lights in the distance. Her first thought was that it might be a campsite or a cabin, a place where she could find help. The lights were faint, but they gave her a glimmer of hope. She moved towards them, her steps quickening despite the uneven ground and the roots that seemed to reach out to trip her. She approached cautiously and found a group of spirits huddled around a fire. They were unlike anything she had ever seen, their forms translucent and glowing softly in the darkness. The fire they gathered around was not a typical fire. It flickered with an otherworldly light, casting strange shadows on the surrounding trees. They looked strange and ethereal. Their faces were kind but otherworldly, their eyes reflecting the light of the fire in a way that made them seem both welcoming and eerie. Ria felt a shiver run down her spine, but she also felt a strange sense of calm. These spirits did not seem hostile. In fact, they seemed almost curious about her. Ria was scared, but remembered her grandmother's words. Kindness can melt even the coldest heart. Her grandmother had always told her stories of spirits and how they could be both friend and foe, depending on how they were treated. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. She knew she had to show kindness if she wanted to find a way out of this dark, foreboding forest. She offered them her food and water. The spirits smiled warmly. It was a simple gesture, but it seemed to mean a lot to them. They accepted her offerings with gratitude, their smiles lighting up their faces in a way that made them seem almost human. Ria felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had made a connection, however tenuous, with these otherworldly beings. They showed her a safe path out of the forest. The path was illuminated by a soft, glowing light that seemed to come from the spirits themselves. It wound through the trees, leading her away from the darkness and towards safety. Ria followed the path, her heart filled with gratitude and wonder. She knew she would never forget this night or the spirits who had helped her. Ria learned that even in darkness, kindness could light the way. It was a lesson she would carry with her for the rest of her life, a reminder that no matter how lost or afraid she might feel, there was always a way out if she approached the world with an open heart and a kind spirit. These stories highlight the importance of morals. The banyan tree reminds us to respect nature. The Haveli teaches us that greed can lead to our downfall. Ria's encounter with the spirits shows us the power of kindness. Hindi horror stories are much more than just scary tales. They are stories of our culture, our beliefs, and our values. They entertain us, frighten us, and most importantly, they teach us. These stories stay with us long after the fear subsides. They remind us to live our lives with kindness, respect, and courage. So the next time you hear a Hindi horror story, remember the message. Embrace the thrill, but also learn from the lesson. For within the darkness lies a light of wisdom. Listen carefully and let these stories guide you on your path.